welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for today or tomorrow or Tuesday, because after all, it's your podcast. Now, joining me today, it's Patrick Kelly from Blue Peg Pink Peg. Because
Yeah. I'm not the loud one. I'm not the female one. I'm not the gloomy one. I'm just the one. I'm just the guy who kind of sits in the middle, unremarkable, pressing the buttons, doing my thing. So yes, it's you got me. But I was ecstatic to come on to the show. Love what you've been doing. I've been picking up your episode for a little while now.
Yeah.
And I very much love your utterly ungrounded and unpredictable sort of stream of consciousness, whether we could be talking about playing Magic Maze with our parents or some the great vicissitudes of various things which can be put upon breadstuffs. It's all here, people.
It's just a collection. It's like a menagerie of chaos where the actual zookeepers are the animals, and it could potentially be a popular children's show. But
right. But if you plumb the depths, I think if you were to look into the in between spaces of where people talk, I think there's a universal truth in this show that people are not quite appreciating. It's the dark matter. That is what you need to be listening to.
It's the explosive stuff. It's the stuff that if it meets the nice stuff is going to explode into a horrible mess of cardboard and plastic.
Right. If you could find a way, there are those podcast players that people have where it will close up all of the empty space, so it's just all language, so that it's all compacted with people talking. I think for this show, if you could find a way to take all of the talking out, and just have all the in between, I think there's a truth in between there that they're trying to. I mean, it could be.
It's going to be like BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah. There's something.
Ryan gets the machine and goes, "Are you ready to talk to us today?" And they go,
"Yeah." Yeah, exactly. It's like kind of like EMP maybe. I don't know. Just explore it. There's a contest in there. To the first person that figures out what I'm talking about and what you're finding, I want somebody to go listen to the entire catalog of this podcast. And there's a message hidden inside of that. And if you figure it out and put it in the thread, then you'll get a prize of some sort. I shouldn't say that.
Thanks for that commitment.
Yeah, I'm completely lying just to cover my butt. I don't know what the new EU rules are. We get all these emails about all your.
Yeah, I know. You've just wrecked the entire GDPR because you are.
I know.
You're exposing my data. And
I know exactly. So
I don't want people exposing my data.
So I will be going to EU jail, which I guess is what is that, Czechoslovakia? Where is that?
I actually EU jail is in the UK because they looked at the most interesting place to put a jail, and I'm not going to say where that jail is because potentially you're going to insult people, and I don't like.
No. I should be clear. Like I say, the Czechoslovakia thing. First of all, Czech Republic. My apologies. I was being a bit anachronistic there, but I used to be a kayaker. Like a like a whitewater kayaker back in my youth. And I kayaked with two of the coolest human beings I've ever known. Both were Czech Olympic kayakers. Cool people. So I say all of that with total tongue firmly in cheek.
Is that not a scary thing? What's scarier, board games or kayaking?
Oh, kayaking for sure. For sure. Unless... it depends, right? What my mood is, and how many moves I have to take back.
Yeah.
But they're actually, the analogs are quite very much, there's a lot of similarity between the two in a lot of ways, right? Because when you're kayaking, what you're doing is you get into a quiet space and you look at the lines, you kind of read the river, right? You figure out, okay, where are my lines? Where's the eddy going to break? How fast is this coming? And you pick all your routes out. So you plan everything, and then you get out of the eddy, you brake, you ferry over, but then the water hits you a little harder on one edge than you expected. So now you're going a little farther to the left than you planned. So you've got to adjust, kind of, adjusting in real time. All the while moving, figuring out, changing situations. I didn't see that hole, blah, blah, blah. And so in board game, it's the same way, like
it's worker placement.
Yeah. You plan it out, but everything goes haywire the second, unknown variable gets mixed in there, and you've just got to adjust on the fly.
Or somebody puts the worker in you. Actually, whitewater rafting is very much like viticulture.
It is. Yeah, when someone puts their worker in the spot that you were planning to go to, you find some stupid playboater is in your hole, you didn't see them, and you got to adjust. So the parallels are there. I haven't nearly died playing as many games as I did kayaking. It's close. It's close.
Close.
But I imagine, I play more games with Rob. I expect that number's likely to go up. But anyways, so I do love whitewater kayaking. But I met my wife. This is a true story. I met my wife the day I was on a whitewater trip. I ran a hospital, basically.
All right.
Or a program at a hospital. But it was in the woods. And I was going in to meet a young intern because my staffer who was supposed to be doing that wasn't available that day. So I go in to meet this young intern, and I'd just gotten off the river, and I had a really bad day on the river, and I was just like sopping with blood, just cuts still on me, and a lot of, just really bad day. Which is standard. And I was wearing, a bathing suit and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I walk in to meet this one intern. Come to find out, this other intern was there, which was my then soon to be my eventually to be wife.
Wow.
And she was like, I guess I cut a nice swath, because she was impressed. Which women are not. Like, that's not the default position for women. And me,
were you point breaking it? Were you kind of Patrick Swayze, just
a little
bit, surf,
a little bit, yeah,
little rough,
maybe.
Little rough,
I was like, I'd been off the river for 3 hours, but I covered myself with water. I was wet nonetheless.
Did you walk?
Because
Yeah.
Oh, I carry a water bottle with me. Yeah, just for getting out of the car in that very situation. And and the rest was history. I'll put that in question marks.
Yeah.
The rest was stuff. But in any event, I haven't turned heads since then. What were we talking about? Board games?
Well, potentially, yeah. But this is fine. This is like Did you? What kind of level did you get to in the kayaking? Did you actually try and do kind of semi-professional kind of stuff? Did you?
No, I never got paid. No, I was a guide, so I would lead groups occasionally. I was trained as like a swiftwater rescue because you had to be.
Mm-hmm.
I could do like solid class 5s, but nothing. Like nobody paid me to do it. I bought all my gear. It was a hobby. I was more like climbing was my thing. I used to climb a lot, and hiking. Like, I'm really good at backpacking and was really good at backpacking and sort of trail guide and stuff like that. And I did a lot of work. I was in mental health was what my work was.
Oh, right,
and
okay.
And so I had a master's in psychology, and I developed a lot of programs for using natural environments in therapeutic settings.
Yeah.
And so I worked a lot with people in those settings. And that was what I did at the hospital. I ran all their I was one of 2 people who ran all of their outdoor ed programming.
Oh, cool.
So it's cool. Yeah, but then I went to law school, and basically it all turned to dust from there. I went from being kind of a dynamic, interesting person who was in pretty good shape to the man you see before you.
But why law though? You're able to see the direct. I take it doing the mental health stuff. You're able to see the direct impact of. I take it slowly working with people to get them kind of out and about. And kind of the beneficial therapeutic kind of results of that. Then? Was that not quite rewarding, or was it really?
It was rewarding.
Yeah.
It was nice. I liked it, but it was also it could also be very oppressive and debilitating. I guess what it should be known is, and any person in the mental health profession would probably attest to this, a lot of us are drawn to mental health because we're trying to solve our own problems, right? So I've long been open about my struggles with a mood disorder and various other issues that kind of derive from that. It all kind of is a cascading effect. And I mean, I'm high functioning, don't get me wrong, but I'm constantly kind of working that struggle.
Yeah.
And a lot of us in the hobby, candidly, are. And so I'm always dealing with that, struggling with that, and always was. And as a result, because of the way that I was working and the clients that I was working with, it became very hard for me to produce the sort of emotional distance that I needed. It was really taking a heavy toll upon me.
Right.
And so I thought I wanted something that I've always wanted to be a helper. I've always had a calling to serve others. And I've always had a good fluidity with language and pretty good understanding of logic and other things. And so I thought that the law might be an interesting thing for me. I've always said, to this day, I love the law. Like, I love studying it. I love understanding it. I love kind of parsing out the reasoning and the philosophy behind law. I'm not fond of being a lawyer at all. Like, it doesn't suit me. I discovered. I still do it, and I do poverty law.
Okay.
I work with indigent clients. I don't do criminal defense or anything like that.
No.
I help them protect their legal rights as it relates to housing and consumer, blah blah blah.
So is that against kind of like landlord tenant stuff, or protecting what their requirements are and what their rights are to certain access to certain facilities and things like that?
Exactly. Benefits sometimes. A lot of I do a lot of banking law there.
Yeah.
My biggest practice is home protection for people who are dealing with hard times. I'll help them try to preserve their homes, or if they've been taken advantage of by predators, which often happens, and I can help them protect their interest. But the work requires taking a lot of L's, losing a lot, or at least modifying what it means to win. Which is not to say that I don't zealously advocate for my clients, but you're working at a major disadvantage, often by a product of their choices and sometimes by a product of the way the law is structured.
Yeah.
But anyways, that kind of was why I got into it, because it looked like I wanted to be involved in that. And then, I mean, let's just be plain about it, right? I was getting married. I met the woman of my dreams. Gonna get married. It made sense to produce, a way that we could kind of have the life that we thought we wanted. Neither of us really wanted to be rich or affluent, but we wanted to be comfortable for our children.
Yeah.
And, which is not to say I am at this time. My work is, I make a workman's wage, but it's honest work. And, I'm proud to do it.
Yeah. Have you noticed kind of, as your work become harder over the last kind of 5-10 years with, changes in economy and generally the way that, have you seen more people being affected?
Yeah. So in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The law is a fluid thing. And the first area of law that I practiced in was employment law, because it was the last bastion for civil rights legislation in the United States.
Yeah.
And I've always been a sort of an advocate for civil justice. Still am, and I still do work in that area. But there became a growing need for additional protections, and because of the creation of there's a law in the United States called the CFPB, the Consumer Finance Protection Law, which created the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which created a whole new area of law that was designed to help people against the big guys. And so as that area of law started to emerge, there became a new area, an opportunity for us to start taking advantage of giving a little more power to the little guy. And so I started educating myself on that so that I could sort of take advantage of it. Now, there's a lot of things that are being done to undermine that, and I'm not going to get into all the politics of that. But the point being, it's you have to be fluid. You have to always be kind of have your head on a swivel in this work, and and be prepared for whatever you can do. And a big part of what I do, it should be said, I still draw every day upon my mental health work. Yeah. Like I will, if I have a client that has I'm meeting with a client and the answer is a bad one, right? And it's going to take me 5 minutes to break down the law for them, but then I'll spend the next hour and a half being with them in the space that they are in, letting them cry, let them kind of work through stuff. I always take, because of the way my work works, because of the nature of the ways I'm paid and whatnot, I'm able to be very engaged and involved with my clients in that regard. I don't do all the social work stuff for them, but I help send them in that direction. But I kind of use all of my other skills to help them sort of work through what they need to so that they can have that catharsis and I can make the emotions easier for them to manage. That's the part of the work that I think is the craft, and that's where I'm a good lawyer. I know the law very well, and I'm an adroit advocate, but I'm a very good counselor, and that's always kind of been what I've done the most of. Mm-hmm. So it's fulfilling work. Sometimes it can be taxing, but it's satisfying.
Would you go back to the counselling again, or would you want to kind of maintain a certain distance by staying within the law side of things?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say, right? Because my issue with mental health is I believe in the necessity of sustaining and preserving mental health. I think that the unexamined life is not worth living. Yeah. I think that we all struggle and have to pick each other up all the time, and it's our obligation to care for our fellow man. It's the reason that we are in this world, to my mind. I will always carry another man's load if I can. Yeah. And I guess for me, though, the challenge is that we don't know what we don't know in mental health. Mental health is such an imperfect science. It's instinct, and it's a lot of sort of guessing in the dark. It really is. I have a very empirical mind, right? Like I like evidence, and I like to know that certain things move in a certain way, but I have an artist's soul. Yeah. And in mental health, it can be hard because we don't have most of the answers. If you're treating with a mental health professional, that's great for you, and I would encourage all to seek out help. And certainly there's pharmacology and various other modalities that can serve all needs, and there's great success. But it's very much it's kind of a luck of the draw thing. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I've been in therapy myself my whole life, and it's very rare that I find a therapist that I resonate with in spite of my very best efforts and their very best efforts. People I have great affection for, respect for, but they weren't able to provide me what I needed. And so for me, part of the frustration of being in mental health is I felt like it was an imperfect tool for what I wanted to do. And I felt the limits of what I could do were so constantly, in spite of caring deeply and working diligently to be as good as I could be. I just felt like I couldn't do it. The tools just weren't there, and it wasn't a limitation of me. It's a limitation of what we know about the ways that we work. Yeah. Which is not to say I am a big advocate of mental health and mental health practices and practitioners and people that are exploring new things in responsible ways. Much damage can be done, like horrible damage, but if not done carefully. But people who approach the work with care, and I have absolute admiration and respect for them. But I found myself feeling very hollowed out by the work when it was all said and done. If I could do it, that's my calling. But unfortunately, I just didn't have the fortitude, I guess it was, the emotional fortitude, intestinal fortitude that the work took at the end of the day. And I have to know that.
It's tougher to move away from something that you're emotionally invested in and still take an entirely kind of rule, I guess, empirical kind of view in it. If you've been dealing with something for a period of time and, then not just being able to stand away and say, right, I can't care about this because if I care, I end up kind of caring too much, and then I become too involved, and then it's difficult to kind of walk away without thinking about it kind of too much kind of thing, which is always kind of like a difficult thing.
Yeah, I was always able to keep the boundaries up between myself and my client. I was very practiced at that, and I always have been. Mm-hmm. But the internal boundaries are what are always harder for me to let go of, and it's hard, But I have great respect for people that do it. In all manifestations, there are a lot of people out there in this world, hundreds of people. Many of the people I've met in this hobby are healers, right? They are big-hearted and open and vulnerable and caring and supportive. Like it baffles my mind the manner of beauty that exists within the community. And ultimately, I would say I was drawn to board games, right, because it was interesting and novel. It was fun to see these funny little colored cubes on this board, and you could move them around and do weird things with them, and it felt uniquely European and therefore cosmopolitan and a little fancy shishi, right? Like there was that sort of that thin line of utter and complete pretension for which I am famous. And it's part of who I am. I can no longer, I try to deal with it and manage it and mitigate it, but it's like my nose, I wish it were smaller, but it's the one I've got. And
you could get some makeup and you could contour down the sides and stuff.
And I do, right? Yeah, like I take a little sculptor's wax here and there, but the point being that was what drew me to it, right? And I enjoyed it, and it was something fun to do with my wife. But what's kept me in the hobby over the decades now, which is crazy, but is the depth of humanity that I've found within the community. The fact that I have seen people, when I was dealing through some dark times, lift me up. I've seen people lift others up. I've seen people be there in support for people who are honest and vulnerable about what they're dealing with or struggling with. And then you've got your Jack Vassell Memorial Funds and John, and Tom just really putting all of his energy into serving the community. And he's just one of many, there's so many people, Stephanie Straw putting hours and hours into providing support for the Children's Miracle Network, and just a lot of people like really throwing themselves into service. And then in the same regard, you got people who are being advocates for all of our communities, whether it's Katie or Sue's or I don't know, any number that I could name, who are standing up and holding people up and standing up to people, and in the same time guiding people along. Like, I just love the fact that our community is about being there for each other in all the ways that you are, like guiding us to the right place when we need to be guided sometimes, and giving us support when we need support sometimes. Like, that's what's kept me in this hobby over the years, is just seeing both in my own experience of the people that I love, that I see every convention or several times a year, to the people that I've never met, but who I know they're my allies, if ever I needed them. So, and I'd be there for them too, in the same regard. It's just, that's what our community is about.
Well, it's a community, because in order to be able to play a board game, you usually need to be sitting opposite somebody, and it's very difficult not to sit and play a game unless, as we say, we're playing Magic Maze and you're throwing down pawns at people, but without having some kind of conversation as you're talking. I think when I was looking at a hobby, and this was thinking about getting back into a hobby, and I think the first thing was I need to have something which involves an ability to potentially form friendships with people. I mean, that's, and I automatically went, what can I do that? And then I was kind of checking back into board games, and then I went, well, if I can go along, I can see. And then I walked in, and it was kind of like, wow, this is kind of what I've been looking for, because it wasn't just a case of everybody sit around and play the game. It was a case of everybody sitting down and saying, so how's your week been? Kind of thing.
Right.
How you been?
Right. Yeah.
How you been today? How you been this week? And sometimes people will say, it's me, it's kind of been okay. But then you get some people that would go off on a little rant, and you would let them rant, and you would let them rave, and you would let them complain about how much this annoyed them, or their boss pissed them off, or whatever it was. But it was all about the conversation, which revolved more around that. Now, you can argue you kind of get that. You could get that with other hobbies, but I don't think there's the nature of the hobby being some kind of straight level of communication.
Right.
That you don't get in any other hobbies. I mean, I do Taekwondo, but I'm not smashing somebody repeatedly in the head with my foot and saying at the same time, so how's your week been, kind of thing, as I'm hurting them.
Right.
And I think one of the things that's kept me in the hobby is the fact that I'm always guaranteed a certain level of communication, and it also opens you up to having maybe chats afterwards, or if somebody's being slightly different or a little bit quieter, you can say, well, listen, are you okay? And it kind of leads into that kind of good thing, which is always kind of good. And I'm always surprised how you get that in board games, but you don't get it as much in the kind of the close cousin, the kind of the video game, which still perplexes me how people that say the hobbies are so close, and that to me they're so kind of far away.
Yeah.
It's I could go to an expo tomorrow. I could sit down at a table with a copy of Carcassonne or Dice Masters or Star Wars Destiny or whatever, and you'd end up speaking to the person in some way, shape, or form. Unless it was a tournament kind of thing, and I find kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an odd thing to unpack. The sort of the fact that both are games, right, and both are these sort of simulated experiences of challenge and adversity that are ritualistic in certain ways, right? Mm-hmm. Like we are kind of, there's the journey and the challenge, and we're sort of confronting it in a safe but experiential way. Both of them have those same features, and there's very often a common sort of, building towards the same sort of things. But I agree. It feels to me, now again, I'm not a big video gamer, so I don't want to speak of which I do not know, but my son plays Fortnite and he enjoys it, and there is a great community he's developed within the small core of friends that he plays with. Yeah. But it's not but of course he's 13 too, right? So he doesn't have the sort of the need for the emotional depth that an adult may have. Yeah. But I think that the board game is different because it is in most cases in real time, right? We are in space together, and there's something meaningful about being in a particular space with another human being, being present in the real, in the analog. I think there are totems too. I think the things we touch and we feel are important somehow. There are real physical manifestations of the challenge that we can interact with commonly, and that sort of shared kinesthesiology, I think, is meaningful. I don't know. I would really be, and I've discussed this on the show before, but I'd be really interested to see a brain scientist with more knowledge than I have, look at this and unpack it in a way that might give us greater insights into what's going on at the table that is so unique, almost reverent in some ways. I don't want to give it too much power or be disrespectful of people's faiths, but there is something we don't quite speak that becomes manifest at the table. And it's weird because where in those rare instances where you have someone who doesn't fit in the circle, it is like it is like a pebble in the shoe. It is so profoundly exacerbating. It's just weird how if when it works, it's always fine. But that one odd experience where there's somebody who doesn't click with the group, and everybody knows it, right?
Yeah,
we all feel it almost instinctually. And it's just a bizarre thing. But I just have always been very taken by the community in all of its manifestations because of board gaming.
Well, all I know is the UK Games Expo was on this weekend, and I know that there would have been a lot of people that have spoken to a lot of their peers through Twitter and Facebook and things like that, and there's going to be a lot of probably firm friendships that have been formed by actually people meeting probably face-to-face for the first time and sharing a game over a table, which is a very kind of a cool thing to happen.
Yeah, it is cool. And I mean, which is not to say that you have to be at all these experiences to be a part of the community.
No.
You can participate in any way you want. We talked about that on our most recent show. But I do agree that like there's that opportunity of sort of meeting and getting into the space with and forging friendships that, yeah, you'll see a couple of times a year. But when you do, it's like you're right back where you started off. And, and I have several friendships that are like that, and they're really special and dear to me. And I imagine that they will persevere in my life longer than a lot of other relationships I've had.
Mm-hmm. I got a question for you. Okay.
Sure.
Being in the content creation space that you're in, do you feel pressure to play more games than you usually would as a hobby? Is it like a work time kind of hobby situation? Do you feel you have to kind of maybe
get my games in?
Yeah. Do you feel that, I better play this because I know I'm going to be talking about it this week? Or do you try and just say, well, listen, it's a hobby. I don't want to turn this into a situation where I'm forcing myself to play something or look at something?
Yeah, it's a balance. Sometimes I have to. It has to be work.
Yeah.
There are times where I've got to get these games played. But in the same regard, I have the thing that makes a being within a cast, meaning the four of us, a valuable thing, and why it's a format that I like, is because first it gives us something to play off of, but also there's life happens, and when I'm in a moment where I can't play as many games, I can reach out to my castmates and be like, look, I got a lot going on, and I'm not going to get a new one in this week. So, somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack so that we can make sure we've got our content. Or, we got such and such a game in. I thought I was going to get it played, but I've had too much going on. Let me get it back to you guys and see if you can get it played. I mean, it is work. There's no doubt about it. There are features of the job where you just got to be reliable, right? Like when a publisher creates a relationship with you, we don't take we don't accept sponsorship at this point, and we will never accept pay for a review or a preview. So with the only currency we have is our getting access to the content, the games, and providing a timely response to it, hitting the deadlines that we've set for ourselves. And so sometimes, you can have to really kind of crank something out because you've got an expectation and an obligation that there's not a quid pro quo per se, but I like to meet when I say I'm going to do something, I try my best to get there. And so we try to do that. Sometimes it can be a bit cumbersome in that regard. And it suits me well because I love novelty. And so getting a whole bunch of new games played, when it's a deep review, we get 4 to 5 reviews plays in of it before we review it. If it's a preview or a banter review, one of our lighter reviews, we will just get a couple of plays in it, unless it's a game that really has some weird stuff going on, right? And so I get to kind of flit around a little bit. I enjoy being a hummingbird when it comes to board games. So I don't have as much of the need that other gamers may have to dig in deep on a title. So it suits me, and that's part of why I've done this is because, this is the way I like to play, and this particular game playing style is conducive to this sort of very ADD, sort of erratic sort of style of going about things. And so it meshes up for me, right? So I've never found it to be that tedious. Occasionally, there will be a time when just a lot of stuff comes in. Like we get a whole bunch of boxes, and we've got a lot of stuff we've got to deal with because of the release schedules, and it can become a little bit like and my kids hate it because they're my gamers of last resort, and so if I've gotten to my kids, then it's gotten pretty dire, and they can get a little cranky.
I could just imagine you sitting at the dinner table and saying, "You will finish that broccoli, or we'll be doing 3 hours of Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea," and they'll go like, Dad.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's just like, what are some games that my kids have recently had to play? They recently had to play a couple of games of Fae with me, which they liked. They enjoyed that, and it was short.
Yeah.
They recently had to play. We played Knock 'Em All a bit, but again, short, and they enjoyed it. I'm trying to think what's the last game that I played with the kids where they were just it was a fine game, but they were simmering at the end of it because of the circumstances.
Just wanted to go stand it up, walking around the table.
And it's kind of like, I don't make my kids play games with me very often. It's sort of my caveat. Like, they're my kids, and so 9 times out of 10. But occasionally, I've done a lot of stuff for them. I'm their dad, and I run them around here, and I take them there, and I do this for them there, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm owed. You guys owe me. I got to get this played, and it's just the way it's going to be. And my 15-year-old daughter is like, my son is more pliable. He's 13, and typically will be a little more pliable. My 15-year-old will be just a little bit. She'll dig her heels in sometimes.
That's not happening.
Yeah. It's just not. It's not. But. I can't think of the last thing that I played with them where it was not too long ago. I remember something I played pretty recently. I just can't, for the life of me, I cannot call up what it was that I played with them. And it just did not, they were like, just not happy to have to play it.
It depends. I mean, I'll bring it like a firm favourite, and occasionally like I'll sneak in a new one. I think the last one I kind of sneaked into play was kind of like Dinosaur Island, and the Dayglow colour scheme kind of worked wonders for that, because my daughter went, "This is cool, Dad," and my son went, "This is pink, Dad," and I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." Just by the end of it, they were both like, "Wow, this is like," they were having a good time. They were having kind of like a good fun. And then I've borderlined it with like something like Viticulture, where they've went, "This is a bit dry," and I went, "Well, it is it's a white wine. What are you expecting?"
Yeah. If I tell dad jokes, like, come on, dude, you're getting your kids to play these board games, and then you're gonna hammer them with dad jokes.
It's a captive. It's a captive audience. It's a captive audience.
Yeah,
they can't go into it.
Well, I made them for a reason, dagnabbit. And that is the one.
So have you got a style of games that you'd enjoy? I mean, are you one of those that is into kind of like the heavier games, or are you preferring something kind of like short and light and kind of easy that you can get into and have a quick game of?
I like both. As for me, when I'm playing a game, for me, it's going to be a mid to heavy Euro. Pretty crunchy. Like if a game for my choice will be Arkwright. Let's see. I'll tell you right now, honestly, notwithstanding your aversion, if I had a game, we just recently reviewed Argent, the Consortium. I'd play that game. Yeah. I will play that game anytime it comes to the table right now. I am so obsessed with that board game right now. So those are the games that I would choose for me. But in the same regard, Manhattan, the new reprinted version, I love that. Like, I like abstract games. My son and I play Santorini probably 5 times a week. It stays out on the table and it gets played all the time, and I really enjoy it, and he really enjoys it. It's as I've said many times, I prepare the meals in my house, and when I'm simmering something on the stove and he's maybe sitting at the table just finished some homework, he and I will knock a game out very often. And so yeah, I mean, I like it all, but if you had to choose for me, it's probably going to be a pretty not 18X, but but a chunkier game, heavier weight with a little more moving parts to it.
Yeah, I played what did I play? I played Wasteland Express Delivery Service quite recently.
Yeah.
I really kind of liked what we played in that. But then the other night I was playing Catacombs Conquest, which is basically a very, very light version of Catacombs. The kind of almost like a flicky. It's a dexterity game.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
You just basically, you play, instead of your creatures having set moves, you have a hand of cards and you play a card on your round, and that decides your basically your little disc takes on the attack of that particular card. So it's very fast, it's very quick, it's very paced, and obviously I can't flick for anything at all, so I lost absolutely completely. But it is kind of really, really fun, and it depends. It's kind of I guess it's the kind of the mood that I'm in, because I've got access to quite a few games. You go to the club and somebody's going to come out and says, "Hey, does anyone want to play this game, for instance?" So we've dived into. Somebody will bring on like Lords of Waterdeep, and we'll just say, "Yeah, come on, it's like a big kind of, it's like a nice sweater." It's like a fluffy jumper. You can just stick Lords of Waterdeep on. You're saying, "Okay, I'm sweating a bit, but it's comfy. I know the game. I like what I'm kind of doing."
I haven't played Lords in so long. It's a good game. I do enjoy it.
It's fine. It's good. I prefer the vanilla all the time, because otherwise bigger, more kind of complicated things kind of confuse my brain. I end up kind of sitting in the corner, kind of forgetting how my legs have worked. And things
they
like
absolutely. That, I want to be not mistaken. It's an interesting sort of thing. This is another. I mean, seriously, like I'm working on some authorship on this right now. Like I am not a good board gamer. Like I'm not. I lose far more games than I win.
Yeah.
I lose far more games than all of the people I play with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but so there's nothing to be said. Like I'm often helpless at these games. I don't know what it is that draws me to them and why I persist in sort of enjoying the challenge they present. And then the flip side of that is like, I am not a stupid man. I'm a bright man. I've done, whatever.
Yeah.
Like objectively, like I'm not trying to blow my own horn. I just,
Yeah, fair enough.
But the point is, but the fact remains, I'm abysmal. I get just rocked by people at these games, and I'm like, why am I just getting like trounced? At all, like why? And I'll try. Like I will like really bend my mind towards trying to understand a game and trying to think through it and trying to be deliberate about the choices that I make. And I just like I don't see what other people see. And I've always kind of marveled at the fact that that I can like Sisyphus, I'm just pushing that rock up the hill and it keeps rolling back over me. And I just keep on going, or whatever. Maybe Prometheus getting his liver eaten out.
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say that. I'm a sucker for punishment. It's okay. Yeah, what's happened to your liver, Patrick? It'll grow back.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Fortunately. Thank God. The gods are just. So yeah, I don't know, but I still enjoy it, the intellectual rigor of it. I'm not good at it, but I don't know. I got to keep the muscle. I don't know.
So are you like 4 out of 4 when it comes to you guys if you're getting together and playing a game? Then do you automatically say, "Well, I'm going to be last"?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Rob wins the most.
Well, he's got a face that looks like he wins the most. That's a very scary. Rob, that's a very scary picture you've got on the website. I'm not saying anything.
It's a serious one, that one. But yeah, he wins the most by a healthy margin. And then I would say, I mean, Josh is a heavy gamer. He's probably the second most. He's our newest host. He's probably the second most wins. And then Christina probably, I mean, I win fewer games than anybody else. Christina beats me, I would say, more often than not. Christina is definitely when we play a game for the first time, she's our systems analyst. She figures it out quickly. Mm-hmm. She can figure out the systems quicker than everybody else, and she can win that first game. Rob, once he synthesizes everything through that first playthrough, then things start clicking for him. He's put together, like he integrates all of the knowledge that he's gained from the experience, and he improves upon himself. And Josh is very much a key within a lock. He will try a key, he'll hit the lock. When he figures out which key works, he starts spamming it really effectively with subtle variations that can be quite, sophisticated. And I am the bag of excrement left upon the front door that has been lit.
Don't be so hard.
I mean, I know I'm self-effacing, but I was trying to come up with something colorful. But the point is, I will stumble. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut. I will occasionally stumble into victory.
That's not even a saying.
Saying.
There's no point in anyone in history has somebody turned around consoling somebody after they have not succeeded at something and said, "Don't worry, son. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut." If somebody said that to me, I'd be turning around and going, "That's your saying?"
Wait. Okay, hang on. I have heard Scottish aphorisms. I have heard idioms in my life of Scottish origin.
Well, go for it.
And I can't remember any of them.
Oh well, that's good.
But I know.
That's a good defense.
Hit me with one. I can't remember them right now. I'm on the spot. But I know I thought to myself, I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what do you think is just for giggles, if you could, like, what's an idiom, a Scottish idiom that you think is colorful but also a bit cryptic?
Okay. Every rose has its thorn.
Yeah. All right.
And every day has its dawn. And every cowboy sings. No, hang on, that's not that. That's
yeah, no, that's right. No. It's the great Scottish poet Bon Jovi, I think is he's. My accent's bad, but I have to say, when I listen to you guys, this is no joke. When I listen to you, I will start mimicking word for word what you're saying. But I'm not joking. You guys will talk, and I'll start working on my accent work with you guys. Because when I've said this before, but so I can't remember the name of the actor. I think it's Graham. I don't know who. You'll be able to tell me. But the voice actor, who's also, it may be Graham Greene, who read the Harry Potter books on tape. Has the record of having the most voices.
I thought that was Stephen Fry. No,
Stephen Fry. It is. Yeah? It is Stephen Fry. You're right. It's Stephen Fry. So I was gobsmacked by his fluidity, his ability to sort of deal with accents. And so when I started reading the books to my kids, I started working in all of my accent work and developing various. I have a book on accents, and I can't do it now. I mean, I could bring up my voices. I
want a Scottish accent right now, Patrick.
All right, a Scottish accent? Oh, yeah, heaven to mercy! All right.
Come on.
Oh my God, you're gonna kill me. I'm mortified in doing this, but I'll try. I'll do it. Okay. I'm a sport.
You get a drum roll.
When you were over,
and
he came on down. He came down from the hills, and I can't do it. Say something for me. Give me a braw, bricht, nicht. Isn't that some like?
It's a braw, bricht.
I remember
it's a braw, bricht, moonlicht, nicht.
It's a braw bricht. It's a braw bricht. Well, the point being, I did all this voice work for my kids. And look, my kids were, what were they? They were 7 and 5.
Okay.
And I, whether my Cornwall accent was accurate, it didn't matter. What mattered was that whenever Dolores Umbridge spoke, whenever Dolores Umbridge spoke, she always spoke like this. So, Holly, when you come over here, you need to be sure that are you going to ignore me, Harry? Are you going to? I see that. That's how Dolores Umbridge spoke. Now, I don't know where the hell her accent's coming from.
No.
It's got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's a potpourri of garbage, but it doesn't matter. My kids knew that whenever you were talking like this, you were talking like Dolores Umbridge, and that was just the way that it was. But obviously, and this is not a joke, I would make notes in the marginalia that said, Dolores, hold your teeth tight together and pinch in your mouth, talk through your nose, so that I could have cues every time that I would do her. And so but I bought some books on some accents and started trying to familiarize myself with them in support of that. But when I listen to you guys, I definitely try to mimic your voices because they're just, well, first of all, I mean they're straight up sexy, right?
Thank you.
It is. I mean it's I don't know what it is, but it captivates the mind. And so there's that. And as I said, I don't have much of a wow factor, so.
So is this way you're gonna be going to say, I'm just having a little drink here, if you don't mind.
Yeah. If you want something to drink here, come on over. With, how you doing?
I don't understand if you've got Irish.
I don't know what I'm saying. Well, and this is always the case.
Why you're kind of put on a Scottish accent.
Well, and the Scottish is tough. It's hard because it's got
R's in it.
It's hard and it requires a lot of sort of articulation and Irish, when you come down here for me and you were telling this girl over here that she was not going to come over and talk to me like I told her to.
Is
that Liverpudlian? I don't know. I remember when I was in Ireland, I could internalize it. Yeah, and I'm the sort of person that I have a bit of a mimic's ear. If I listen to your stuff long enough, I can pick it up, but holding finding the notes that I have to hit in order to get there, there's certain phrases that sometimes I can fall into it if I work at it. But it's always, when I used to do improv and I do accents, every one of my accents were utterly indecipherable. I just marble mouth all of my words. It all sounds like just a bunch of garbled garbage, and whatever. Everybody got a hoot out of it. It was what it was. I mean, I
over the liver.
I know it's hilarious. I was Fluellen in Henry V.
Really?
Many years ago.
That's impressive.
And I worked I couldn't do it now. This was way too long ago, but. This is before CDs and the computer, and I got these tapes, just tapes upon tapes of Welsh accents, and I worked with a dialect coach, and I had a solid Welsh accent because in the production we did, Fluellen was he was a more heavily
boy. You be looking at boy.
He's a great character.
Yeah.
The boys in the luggage. But he was I couldn't do it now. I just couldn't. But it was I worked hard on it, and it was one of the few productions I ever did of Shakespeare where we took on all the accents because it was very much, we were doing this heavily, because Henry's role, his Welsh heritage is hugely important to his ability to sort of maintain his power and his sort of sway upon the soldiers, and Fluellen's a big part of that. And so we very much were exploring sort of the roles that culture has in sort of producing leadership in this production. So accents were important. But anyways, I don't know how we got to all of this.
It doesn't. It's fine. As I say, it's fine. It's completely. You're right. As I say, this is just one of these things. We just lit the blue touch paper and then set it off in a huge cacophonous firework of wonder.
Yeah. I mean,
amazing.
I'll tell you, in that production, so like I was younger and I've never been a big guy, but I was well cut, so I was in probably the best shape of my life, and there was this giant wooden platform that we had to get up on top of, and it was like it kind of had this primitive sort of clothing, a lot of furs and such, and I got up on top of it and I had to blow a ram's horn or something. It was some sort of, horn. As at the beginning of the, right before Agincourt, right after the scene where Henry's walking through the men, kind of encouraging them in disguise. And so I come up and I have to blow this giant horn, and it was long and resonant, and it was this big sort of moment. And it was high up on this wooden platform over this giant bed of rocks. And one night in this show, and this is a big show. I mean, this is like a pretty big performance for me. It was a big production company and whatnot. And I blow this horn, and I blow it beautifully and long and resonant. And I got this great, great breath, and I held it as long as I could. And I took the horn away from my mouth, and I realized that I had expended every piece of breath within me and passed out, and immediately fell 8 feet to the stage, and just smashed on the rocks. And I hit the ground. I pass out, go black, feel myself sort of falling through space, hit the ground hard. And I remember the only thing I could think to do was stand up as if nothing had happened and start yelling at people. And like not a bit of it scanned, not any of it was Shakespeare's original. It was just like it had a Welsh accent, but it was probably, I was telling people,
would you say to folk, "Hey, I'm walking here"?
Yeah, exactly. So, oh yeah, it was good stuff. I was an artist.
I mean, and this is where we kind of swing right back round, Yeah. What have I been doing? I was watching, I didn't realize that Goodfellas was on Amazon movies, so I started, you say, I'm just going to see if this is any good still, if it still holds up, and you start watching the first 5 minutes, and then 45 minutes later, you're like, oh, I need to go to bed. This is like too good. And that's pretty cool. That's just one of these things. You're talking about accents and stuff like that.
Which one is it? What show was it? Goodfellas, you said?
Goodfellas, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But you end up monologuing.
Oh,
you end up getting up and saying, I'm just going to go and get myself some coffee. Now, we never understood the way to get coffee before. We never went up and paid for it. We just went in and we just got coffee because, we had respect. And it's kind of like that. So I end up going, I'm just going to go and get myself some milk. Then I'm going to get some sugar, bada bing, What am I laughing at you for? What am I, some kind of comedian for you or something? Am I meant to be here and telling you jokes?
Your Jersey accent is better than my whatever the hell I did. It's a lot better than mine, for sure. It is weird how when you'll get into the rhythm of something that you're watching, you just feel like, especially when you're alone in the house, you get into this place where you start like playing it out in when you're pausing and like you just I do at least, but I have lots of problems.
Okay. I mean, bringing it back in. I mean, for people that have listened along and they've went, I guess these guys kind of talked about board games. You've got
like we waved a board game over the top of the conversation and said
it's like black pepper on a pizza.
Exactly. It's the flavor.
Like, cardboard, sir. Thank you very much. Blue peg, pink peg. Give us the kind of the elevator pitch for people that have kind of listened along and said, right, I got to go and check out this podcast. What can they expect if they jump into the land of the blue and the pink peg?
Well, more board game discussion for sure, because I have other people who keep me honest. But we are focused ostensibly upon board games, relationships, and the interaction between the two, right? Originally our conceit was it was me and my wife and my buddy and his wife, and they were not as involved in board games as we were, and we would talk about sort of play the games together and review them from those two kind of perspectives.
Yeah.
But my wife and I ended up separating, and as a result, we reconciled at a later time. But she never has returned to the show, and so we still have Christina, who is our pink peg, and she is our she kind of but she's a hardcore board gamer at this point. Definitely a great evolution. So what we are about now, more so than, we still talk about relationships. We still kind of get real and talk seriously occasionally. But what we're about now is we're about human interactions and the sort of the foibles and oddities of being in community with people as you play games.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the things that we've done together. We have a banter section is what we refer to it as, where it's a lot of kind of gameplay experiences and weird little things that have happened, sort of short storytelling, as it were. Then we get into our reviews, where we kind of review games with an eye on that sort of family weight, but also knowing that sometimes we like heavy games. So kind of with, our taste to that sort of people that listen to us sort of, I think, have similar taste to us, so they can feel that we're good proxies for their experience.
Yeah.
And then we'll review a single title in depth and kind of get into it. And woven throughout all of that is a bunch of just bizarre sort of diversions and digressions, that we try to stay on the core, because, again, people are constantly pulling me back, and I edit the stuff sometimes down. But, it's sort of, I think our primary focus is entertainment. I think that's what we aim to do as our first instinct. But also to sort of create the sense. Ultimately what we're getting at is, everybody who listens to us over a period of time will get a sense that they know us. We're pretty transparent about our lives. We're pretty transparent about our process. We respect the privacy of those that surround us, but we also want to be authentic about who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's sort of our core, is authenticity. Wherever that may take us. And so that's kind of what we've done. We try to keep our focus on families, because we've been guided back to that by some of our listeners.
Yeah.
But we're just having a good time, and, playing some fun games. We think we have really good taste in games, and are able to sort of point people in directions of stuff that we think is pretty cool.
That's cool. And where can people find you on the internet webs?
On the interwebs? Well, our website is www.bluepegpinkpeg.com. You can search us out on all the social media, Blue Peg, Pink Peg. That'll take you right to us. We have a pretty robust Twitter presence, where we try to keep things. That's where our more news-focused stuff is posted. But we also have a very active guild on Board Game Geek with a lot of very active listeners. We have a very loyal audience. We're not as big as some of the other podcasts, to be sure, but our listeners are very much part of our family. We interact with them very, very actively. We're very present and engaged, and that's kind of what we're about, is sort of building a community around the people that resonate with what we do. So if you think, you might enjoy finding out what we're about, come check us out. And look, if you hate what we're doing, that's cool. Like, we're good with that.
There's always other, as we always say, there's potentially a couple of other podcasts available. The board game space is quite quiet for content creators.
I know, it's insane.
It's just
it's like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant, it blasts you. As a matter of fact, like, the way I listen at this point is I don't listen to any of my regulars at all. I haven't listened to them for the better part of this year.
Yeah.
All I do is I get 3 or 4 new podcasts that I'm going to throw in my rotation. I listen to them for 3 or 4 episodes, and then I pull something else in so that I can start sampling the waterfront.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really cool yourself included, a lot of cool voices out there, and it's hard to break through, and it's hard to find them. So yeah, it's and I need to go out. I've got a list of people I've been discovering this year, that yourself included, that I need to start promoting out there again. I've been trying to do it, a few times every year, and it's time for another one. Because there's great content. But it's very niche-y, right? Right? Like, it's okay that, I've always told podcasters that get your number that you're looking to speak to, and as long as you're in dialogue with people that are interested in you and you're okay with that, just be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because, it's about quality, not quantity. It really is. If you service that quality of people, then they'll start promoting you with others, and the quantity will come. If that's what you want. Like, I'll say, we are, our numbers are fine, but they're not, world beating. But we're okay with that,
I always see you guys in the iTunes charts.
Oh yeah,
I always see you guys in the iTunes charts all the time, and you're always higher than me.
Well, it probably just means
always just like, what the actual Falkirk is going on here?
Well, we've been doing this for 5 years, every week, every 2 weeks,
I suppose,
without a miss. We only have missed a couple of weeks for 5 years.
Consistency.
And honestly, yeah, there's consistency is a big part of it, but also it's just like, eventually, I don't know, flip the table, they're gone. We outlasted those sons of guns. We're just gonna. Our philosophy is we're just gonna be, we're just gonna keep going until there's no one else left.
Eventually, there's a new
and
apocalypse.
Eventually, yeah, in some apocalypse, some guy's gonna be cranking up with his little electric charger, a little iPod like in Book of Eli, and the only board gaming podcast that's going to be out there is going to be us. When you're whatever your apocalyptic scenario is, be it disease, zombies, alien invasion, robot apocalypse,
bananas.
The invasion of the dolls.
Yeah.
Whatever the most likely, I think, is probably the invasion of the dolls.
That's potentially that's an odds evens favorite as far as the bookies are saying.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was looking at Patty Line, and it was, But anyways, the point being, no matter what your apocalypse scenario, the soundtrack of your apocalypse is gonna be Blue Peg, Pink Peg. I promise you that. And we will be plugging right along, reviewing all of the games from our bunker. Like, we have a whole sound studio that we've never even that's sealed, that we've never gone into, just for that scenario. Like, that's our long game, right? Like, that's sort of like we're kind of. I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm hoping it's going to happen soon, because I'm starting to wear out, I don't know how much longer I can do this. So, but here in America, we're doing our part.
That's it. You could definitely say that. And alongside them in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay.
We are carrying, America is carrying everybody's water when it comes to trotting towards the apocalypse. It's time. You guys did your little Brexit thing over there, with your Fermat, whatever, that guy.
Yeah.
Your crazy nut job. I'm getting political. I shouldn't do that. But the point being, I'm not political. I'm just being glib. But the point being, you guys need to step it up, because we're showing people how to get it done here in the US of A.
Absolutely. And if you want to keep an eye on what we're doing, because I'll tell you what, they may think they're going to be the only podcast in the zombie apocalypse.
Hey man, look, dude, you got to have guests. You got to have guests.
Yeah, we could guest. You could guest every second or third week.
Sure.
We could have a special section on how many teeth I've lost today, which is always going to be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, punk, punk, punk. It'll be good. We'll have these meetups, where we'll have instead of giving out board games, I've got like 5 water filters, guys.
I'll be able to fly because I would have grown some wings.
Yeah. Right. You can come on over. We'll have our whole mutant thing going on, which is great. I imagine that I'm going to have a really, really bad mutant power, but that's okay. Like, look, everybody needs somebody who can, create the smell of old car refresheners. Like, that's going to be my mutant power.
I always thought it was the ability to spot eyes that haven't been dotted from over 5 kilometers.
Oh, there you go. That works. I was kind of thinking I could think about new car smell, and that would, like, pheromones would admit that, right? Out of there.
Where's that Pine Fresh come from?
That's my mutant name is Pine Fresh. And
it could be like when you're extra nervous, you get fruits of the forest. Can you spell?
Exactly.
Can anyone spell strawberries?
Yeah, Patrick must be getting lucky because.
Oh my goodness!
I smell tropical fruit.
I don't even want it. I don't even.
So, anyways,
just step away from the car. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to.
Yeah.
Go to Twitter. Go We're Not Wizards. You'll find us there. Go to Facebook. We're Not Wizards. You'll find us there. Go to YouTube. Search for We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. You'll find us there. You'll find us on Instagram under We're Not Wizards. We've got a website, which is we'renotwizards.com. You've also got our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. There's 2 bits of writing on there. Unless you start to look at it, there's going to be 3. I'm warning you now. You can find us on all the podcast catchers like Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Player FM and Podknife and Podbean are also there, and they're fantastic because they automatically put all our episodes onto YouTube for us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. And as we always say, if you like us, consider dropping a subscription because that's very, very nice of you. If you like us a little bit more, consider giving us a rating or a review. Remember, don't give us 10 because it makes us big-headed.
No, I
don't give us a 1 because it makes us cry.
No, give them the 10, you guys. I disagree.
Us a 5.
They deserve the 10.
Give us a 5 because it's in the middle.
5.
And it's average. And we are decidedly
and it's the highest
average.
That you can do. So it's great.
Don't ruin the joke.
Oh no, that's my gag. I ruin all the jokes.
No,
that's why I'm here.
You can't do
my other mutant power.
That's 5, the ruiner of jokes. Ah, dear. Thank you very, very much for coming on, Patrick. This has been a blast and a half. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
It's been a complete pleasure, and God darn it, sometime I'm going to find a way to get out to UK Game Expo because you guys seem to have a really great time out there, and all the coolest cats are hanging at UK Game Expo.
Yeah, I'll be there next year.
All right, bud.
Because once I've moved house.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for indulging me.
You're very, very welcome. There are only 2 more things to do, though, Patrick. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards?
No.
Absolutely not.
No. It's nor should you be wizards. God damn it.
Stay away, wizards. Just stay away. Look, my eyes all twitching now. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the wonderful, the fantastic, the amazing, the blue peg in the blue peg, pink peg. Patrick Kelly, say goodbye, Patrick.
All right, goodbye, y'all. Blue peg, pink peg, number 2, signing off.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and go and check out the content because it's a funny show and there is madness and there's mayhem, but there's also an awful lot of passion behind what they're talking about. And let's face it, you can always listen to one more podcast, I guess, and read the reviews and everything else that they're putting out there as well. But until the next time, goodbye.
Bye all.